The New York Jets are on a winning streak 2 in a row after taking care of the Cleveland Browns 27-20. On this episode, why this is great news for the current regime, and we look forward to Thursday night football and the newcomers to this football team. A lot to talk about and a lot to celebrate, Jets fans. Come on in and celebrate here on Rich Sports Talk. The New York Jets are officially on a winning streak. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rich Sports Talk, your home for all the latest and greatest on the New York Jets. If you're new to the channel, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our live streams after every single Jets game. Also, you can take us on the go wherever podcasts are available. You can put your question in our comment section. Don't forget, super chat to donate to the channel and to jump to the front of the line. The New York Jets have won 2 games in a row for the first time in what seems like a very long time. And there is a lot to talk about. We'll get into Justin Fields' performance, this great defensive performance today. But to me, this game was a very important game for Aaron Glenn and this regime, because this has been a franchise-altering league. Let's just face it, ladies and gentlemen. When this team made the decision to trade Sauce Gardner and to trade Quinnen Williams, they basically told us what we pretty much knew, that this was all going to be about the future, that this last 9 games were going to be about evaluation. And there was 2 things I wanted to keep an eye on for this game with Aaron Glenn. How did this team come out? Because don't forget, this team's coming off a bye. This is a notorious spot for the Jets. How many times have we seen this team come out flat after a bye, look unprepared after a bye? And how many times, especially after a win before the bye, have the Jets followed that up with a clunker in a horrendous way? Now, again, the New York Jets had an opponent today that wasn't great with the Cleveland Browns, but they took care of business. And the other thing I wanted to look for was the effort, because you heard it throughout the week. People were upset about the Quinnen trade and the Sauce trade. And look, let's be honest. Would you blame Quincy Williams, who was benched earlier this week in a really weird situation, that he wasn't going to give a complete effort, just told the Jets, look, I'm just going to shut it down till free agency? It wouldn't surprise you. You were curious how this team was going to respond after losing not 1, but 2 of their best defensive players. You were curious how this team was going to respond after all the roster turnover this week. Because, again, this was a massive week for the New York Jets in terms of the roster turnover. But you have to give credit where credit is due. This team, again, the offense struggled today, but the defense looked really good. The special team was phenomenal. A 99-yard touchdown return by Nwangu, and then Isaiah Williams with a 74-yard punt return. I mean, it's clear the Jets have a very good special teams coach. They have very good special teams with a great punter, a solid kicker, and really good return game. You also look at this team, too. This defense finally looks like the defense that Aaron Glenn and Steve Wilks want to run. For the first couple of weeks, it seemed like this team didn't have the horses that they wanted on this team. It didn't seem like they had the people that they really thought would be a good fit. And you thought today, of all days, was going to be a day where this defense would really look out of sort. Again, A.Z. Thomas was removed from this game with a concussion. He's in the protocol. My guess is he's likely not going to play in the Thursday night game. Garrett Wilson banged up his knee, the one that was bothering him. So I also doubt he will be available for New England. But this was an opportunity for the Jets, and I said before the game, I was shocked A.D. Mitchell wasn't, I guess, ready to go in this game. I guess they felt he wasn't ready in terms of, up to speed with the playbook. But this was a game that the Jets need to take care of business. The Jets, you wanted to see this regime win. And again, here's the thing. For people that want this team to tank, and I understand why people want the number 1 pick, but the Jets have also made it so if they really want the number 1 pick, they have the ammo to go get that number 1 pick. But it's clear this regime's going to be here. This regime was given the green light to trade these 2 perennial star players to get 5, like a bunch of draft picks, 3 first-rounders, a second, and multiple players. But the other thing, too, I was curious is how these players would have a role. Mechie had a catch today. Maisie Smith, I saw, had some nice plays on the interior of the defensive line. Brownlee, I think, has been a really nice pickup for this team. Harrison Phillips, Juwan Briggs have been really nice pickups for this team. But this was a game I wanted to see the Jets come out. I wanted to see them flying around the field. And look, this is a 1-7 team. Their season's over. But the way they're competing, the way they're flying around, guys like Quincy Williams. And again, part of me thinks that they were trying to motivate Quincy. And there's a part of me that now looks at why they didn't trade Quincy. And I thought it was weird at the time. And again, I've been critical of them not trading Quincy Williams this week. But looking back, I think why they didn't do it was because maybe a part of them wants to keep Quincy Williams. They have a ton of cap space. Maybe they think they can keep him on a short-term deal with a lot of money. Maybe they think he's a key building block and a nice veteran presence on this team. So he'll be something to watch down the stretch. There's a lot of young players we'll watch down the stretch. But overall, I thought this was a big win for Aaron Glenn. This team needs wins, and you want to see this team compete. And one of the things with the Lions that we saw, and again, I know Jet fans are rolling their eyes when I mention the 2021 Lions, but you look at the Lions, they started the season 0-10 and then finished down the stretch 500. And right now, the Jets started the season 0-7. They've won 2 games in a row. And again, there's still games on the schedule I think will be incredibly tough. The Bills will be tough, even though I don't know how the Bills lost to Miami today. That was one of the flukiest games I've ever seen in a long time. But overall, you want to see this team compete. And more importantly, you want to see these young kids get better. There's a lot of young players now on this team, and a lot of young players that are going to get opportunities. Interior defensive line, Jawan Briggs, Mozzie Smith at the defensive tackle position are going to get opportunities. This corner room, A.Z. Thomas, you hope gets healthy quickly. You look at the back end, there's going to be a lot of young players playing for this team, and you want them to get those experience. Again, super chance to jump to the front of the line again, come in and celebrate as the Jets are on a 2-game winning streak and winning after the bye, which is something that, trust us, as Jet fans, we're not very used to. And I give this coach a lot of credit. I thought that this team looked prepared, and this defense is starting to look like the defense I thought we'd see. And you look, they had Will McDonald 4 sacks today, tying Mark Gastineau for a single-game record. It seems like these defensive tackles today were eating the double team so Will could get one-on-one. And look, when you have a great player like Quinnen Williams, a lot of the times he's trying to get those interior pass rush, but now it seems like Will McDonald's become a focal point. Jermaine Johnson had a big sack today. The Edges had an incredible game. And look, there's still building blocks here. And this is the thing that I don't think a lot of people understand with the Jets. Yes, the Jets have a lot of holes. Yes, the Jets need a quarterback. But this isn't like when Sam Darnold or Zach Wilson took over, where those rosters were devoid of talent. There's still talent even after the Sauce trade, even after the Quinnen trade. You look at guys like Jermaine Johnson. You want him to be here for the long term. You look for this offensive line. This offensive line, again, helped win this game, drawing Cleveland into an infraction to win this game. This offensive line looks really good. You look at these young receivers, you hope get some run down the stretch, and they might, especially with Garrett Wilson potentially missing Thursday night. You look at this team and you look at the pieces that they have. There's some intriguing pieces on this defense. There's some intriguing pieces on this offense as well. And overall, I thought this was a great performance for this team. This was a performance that this team really needed to show. And this was a tough game. They won a great game. I also am of the opinion that this team needs to find a way to bring Breece Hall back. Again, the 42-yard screen pass today, 21 on the ground with 83, averaging 4 yards a carry. Isaiah Davis also adding 10 yards on the ground as well. But let's get to some of the negative. Look, the defense was great. Quincy had a great sack today. Will McDonald, 4 sacks today. Jermaine Johnson adding a sack as well. I thought the defense was flying around, looked really good. Special teams was unbelievable. And the Nwangu with the touchdown return. Again, Isaiah Williams, 126 return yards, including the 74-yard touchdown return. Nick Folk, again, perfect for field goals. McNamara, 3 punts inside the 20. But we have to have a tough talk. And I've brought this up a couple times. Again, your comments below, super chat to jump to the front of the line. There is a bit of an elephant in the room for the Jets right now, and it's been this case for the season. And I think if you've watched this channel, you know where I'm going with this next point. This is all about a developmental year. You need to see the assets that you have, especially with the new receivers, with your young tight end, with this young offensive line, which I think is showing a lot of potential, especially over the last couple games. The big thing you have to wonder is what quarterback is going to give you the fairest evaluation. And I understand that Aaron Glenn doesn't like bringing up the quarterbacks in the week. I understand that he wants to try to get as much as Justin Fields. And look, when Justin Fields plays at his highest level, it is clear that he is the best quarterback on this team to win games. The problem is that's a high ceiling. But more often than not, we get a lot of floors. And unfortunately, with Justin Fields, the floors are basements. Once again, this was another quarterback performance where he had -5 net passing yards at the end of the first half. At the end of this game, Justin Fields threw 11 passes, 54 yards, 1 touchdown. And of course, the touchdown was a screen pass behind the line of scrimmage. Justin Fields, if you're going to use Justin Fields in an offense, there has to be a healthy diet of running the football with Justin Fields. And right now, I think the Jets are in this weird position where they don't really want to. And I know maybe it's because they're afraid he's going to get hurt. They don't love Tyrod Taylor. But my opinion was this. At the halftime today, when you have another bad performance, again, the Jets are tied in this game. But when I look around, I say, what quarterback will give me the fairest evaluation? It's Tyrod Taylor. And now I understand that Tyrod Taylor played a half the last time and got hurt. My thing for the Jets is if you don't believe Brady Cook should be getting any reps this year, and again, there's a case they don't want that because they basically went down to the final day with Adrian Martinez. The Jets, during the bye week, I thought had a very intriguing meeting with Desmond Ridder. And when that happened, part of me felt that a lot of that's because Tyrod Taylor isn't fully healthy. And if the reason today was they didn't want to put Tyrod Taylor out there because he isn't fully healthy, I feel like you need to get a quarterback in this room, not to necessarily win games, but just so you can get a somewhat fair evaluation of this team, because you have some young receivers. But in order to see these wide receivers, you need a quarterback that can at least times this year, more often than not, Justin Fields, we see this passing offense not be functional. And to the point where it is almost disturbing, and you understand that Tyrod Taylor isn't this, oh my God, great option. I understand Brady Cook is an option that the Jets are probably looking at saying, we don't really love him, but we have 6 completions and not one receiver had more than 2. Brees Hall had 1 catch for 42 yards. Mason Taylor, 1 catch, 4 yards. Isaiah Williams, 1 catch, 4 yards. John Mechie, 1 catch, 3 yards. I mean, we're trying to figure out if John Mechie, we're going to see if A.D. Mitchell, we're trying to figure out if they can be productive pieces on this football team. And I understand the Browns have a good defense. I understand it was raining. I understand it wasn't a great day to throw the football. But I look at the other side. Dylan Gabriel is a rookie quarterback that, again, hasn't had the experience in this league like Justin Fields. And against a defense I thought was playing very well with the Jets, they trusted him to throw the ball 32 times. 17 of 32, 167, 2 touchdowns. Is it the greatest game ever? No. But they trust him enough to at least attempt to throw the football. Justin Fields threw the ball 11 times today. And the reason I brought up Desmond Ridder was this. I understand Desmond Ridder is not a starting quarterback. I think he can be a good backup. But look at his career. He's a 63% completion percentage in his career. He can complete passes. He can be efficient within an offense. I don't need a great quarterback right now. But what I do need is a quarterback where I can at least get some evaluation of these pass catchers. Because if John Mechie and A.D. Mitchell get, 10 targets total over the next 8 games, which with the way Fields plays is certainly a possibility, I'm not getting much. And the stats to me are also misleading because people are going to say, well, Nolan, if you look at Justin Fields' stats, he's completing a higher completion percentage, 64%, than Ridder. But he's also not pushing the ball past 10 yards. He's throwing the ball at the line of scrimmage. He's not taking shots, and he had one of the worst interceptions we've ever seen. So it is a big thing down the stretch where I need to see this team evaluate the players on this team. And I need to get a fair amount of information and data to make a full assessment. Because right now, when I look at Justin Fields so far this season, he's attempted 25 passes in a game, which again, in today's NFL is not a lot. He's only attempted that 3 times this year. The first game against the last game against Cincy, 32 attempts. Against Dallas had 46 attempts, and against Miami had 27 attempts. He's had 22 against Pittsburgh, 11 against Buffalo. He had 17 against Denver and 12 against Carolina. Today tied for season low, and the season low that he tied was the Buffalo game where he was 3 of 11 for 27 yards, 0 touchdowns. You're not going to get a fair assessment of this team, I feel, at Justin Fields. And I know Aaron Glenn is going back and forth for strategy and trying to figure things out. But a big thing, and why I think you have to have a short leash, is the upcoming Thursday night game. And I'll explain why that's important. And again, Super Chat jumped to the front of the line. Let's get to some of your comments right here. Spin Max, good to have him back. Any thoughts on why there are only 2 games without Garrett Wilson contributing? Garrett Wilson was also banged up today. Again, I also think they're playing bad teams. I don't think it's because of Garrett. Again, part of it, too, might be the fixation of Justin Fields trying to, basically move the ball. It's only a 1-game sample size, but the run defense was good without Quinn against the run, back in Judkins. And look, I think that this is – I love Greg is excited for Thursday night. It's probably going to start this week because we're on a short week play Thursday night. I think so, too. But, Matt, I think he's got to have a short week. He has got to have a short week. And I think they're showing that they definitely are thinking about it. I don't think they just bring them in for a try without any reason. Jay threw the ball less than 3 times a quarter. That is pathetic. I always say this, action speaks louder than words. You can tell us you believe in Justin Fields and you think he's a good quarterback, but if you're not letting him throw the football, that's this. So A.D. Mitchell, this was a big one too, Matt. I was of the opinion he should have played. Now, again, Mechie had the benefit, if you remember, he got traded during the bye week, so he basically had a full week. I think the big thing is they want him ready to go for the Thursday night game. At this point, he's got to go because I don't think the knee is going to be good for Garrett Wilson. At this point, I'm not risking Garrett Wilson's long-term health if the knee is an issue. So I think you're going to see A.D. Mitchell. But I will say I was relatively surprised, Matt, when that was there. Let's see. The defense was playing a lot better from Tony Alexio. Again, Super Chat, jump to the front of the line, make a donation, and also it helps support the channel. Again, like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our live streams. I do think that this is a very interesting game for Aaron Glenn. I started off the show by talking about this, which is this to me is a good sign because the Jets for how many years have come out of bye looking sluggish, especially after a win. And you felt the Jets had every right to not come out and play hard in this game when they're 1-7. They trade their 2 best defensive players, arguably. I was intrigued how the energy was going to be. And even from Quincy. Quincy, again, benched early, came in, played with his hair on fire late in this game. And part of me thinks they're trying to motivate because maybe part of this, too, is they like Quincy a little bit better than Sherwood. Maybe there's a scenario where they bring in Quincy on a short-term deal and try to move Sherwood in the offseason. You never know what they're thinking about. And here's the thing, and I've said this all season for Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn said, we want this to be a team our fans are proud of. I think that there are certain checklists for this coach. And this, to me, was a very big checkbox week. And what I mean by that is for Jet coaches, how many times have they not only lost out of the bye, but were embarrassed, weren't competitive, especially buys where they had wins? That, to me, is a good sign in the right direction for this coach, and especially after a week where you trade 2 high-profile players. It was a crazy week in that building. The fact that this team came out and played that way, I think, is important. But I want to bring up the Miami game from earlier. I said that was a crucial game for the Jets because that was a game that would have checked so many boxes off the Jets could win in Miami. Win in Miami where they haven't won historically in the last couple of years. Win in prime time. Not get embarrassed in prime time. And look what happened. The Jets got embarrassed. I say this to go into Thursday night. Again, we'll do a preview later this week. We'll be live after this game to talk about the Jets, and we'll come on live after Thursday night to talk about the game between the Patriots. This, to me, is a big test for Aaron Glenn because this is a team that's now in first place in the AFC East. This is a team that has dogged this franchise forever. This is a team that has basically rubbed our noses. And again, I was at the 52-point loss when they had Zach Wilson get injured, and then you had Mike White in there looking horrendous. And I always remember they were doing a Ring of Honor for Willie McGinnis, and he basically compared it to the homecoming game for the Patriots. So that's how Patriots and Patriot fans view the Jet game. It's a homecoming game. So to me, this is a very important game for the Jets. I don't think the Jets have to win. I think it's going to be a tall test to go on a short week, especially when you traded two of your best players. A.Z. Thomas likely will not play because of the concussion protocol. I doubt Garrett Wilson plays. The big thing for the Jets is this. If you win, that will be incredible, and I think will give a lot of Jet fans will give Aaron Glenn, the staff, a ton of flowers if they do that. My big thing for this, and again, I'm not saying I want moral victories, but I want this to be an effort. I want this to be a one-possession game. I want this to be a game where people in the national media come on Friday morning, and instead of LOL Jets, oh my God, the Jets embarrassed themselves. Oh my God, another embarrassing primetime moment for the Jets. Oh my God, the Jets look like they don't even belong in the same weight class. I want people to come on and say, you know what? If the Jets played a really good game, the Jets, if they get the quarterback, are not that far away from the Patriots, and they're showing us something that, hey, maybe a lot of this core was a rotten apples. Maybe they needed to get some of their guys in here, and that's one thing I think that's been underrated. Like, you look at this front office, they brought in about 6 or 7 players throughout this season to help basically rebuild this team. And this, to me, is an incredibly important game because this is the last time you're going to be on the national stage. And this is really, and again, I know the morning games, I know are technically primetime. I think they're a weird one for me. But the last 2 primetime games, you had Justin Fields somehow throw for negative passing yards against the Broncos in a game where it felt like if you put in Tyrod Taylor, you could have won that game. Meanwhile, you also had the Miami game, and Miami looks horrendous. The GM's already resigned. McDaniel's going to be a sitting duck at the end of the year, but they lose that game in Miami. This, if you don't want to be the same old Jets, you have to change the culture and how people view this franchise. So go into Foxborough and make a statement. Not even a win, but show that you care about this team. Like, if Justin Fields is bad like this again, it's one thing to do it in a 1:00 game against the terrible Cleveland Browns, or half the TV markets, even in New York, wasn't watching this game. They're watching the Giants-Bears game. It's one thing to not make a change there. It's one thing not to go to Justin Fields and have a short leash. But I guarantee you, if Justin Fields plays like that again on Thursday night up in Foxborough, if you're not willing to let him run the football and you want him to play in the pocket, and you want him to make plays with his arm and he is not capable of it, you better have a short leash for Tyrod Taylor, because multiple reasons why. Number one, it feels like you're trying to win with Justin Fields or trying to make Justin Fields work when we know it's clearly not going to work. We know what he is. If he gets off to a hot start and plays really well, and again, we've seen him when he gets off the hot starts. We've seen him when he plays well. He can sometimes, he can put a team on his back for brief stretches. But if you go into a primetime game and this offense is anemic again, and it's clear Tana Ingstrom calls a very different game with Tyrod Taylor than he does with Justin Fields, and you go into that halftime, it's a winnable game, and you don't go to Tyrod Taylor, there's going to be a lot of Jet fans that's going to turn off, and it's going to be very difficult. And I understand this is a lost year. I understand Justin Fields is the younger option. I understand that the ceiling is higher for Justin Fields. But you need to try to win games, and you also need to have accountability, because if Justin Fields doesn't have it, you've already put him on the bench before. That helped him against Cincinnati. Again, you would think after a bye, I thought especially this, he would be running around a lot more. I thought that he would be making more plays with his legs because he had a week to rest. But if he looks this same way, if he's afraid to throw the football early in the game, then you have to go to Tyrod Taylor. And if you don't like Tyrod Taylor because you think he's an injury concern, you don't think he can make it through a game, or you don't think he's good enough, then you really have to start looking at the veteran options on this market. Because for me, this is a evaluation point. And to me, at this moment, Justin Fields is not only a detriment to this team, but I feel he's becoming a detriment to the development because right now for the Jets, this stretch of games is all about answering questions. It's not adding more questions. You want the questions answered. Do you have depth pieces in Mechie and AD at wide receiver? Do you have a good tight end or an elite tight end in Mason Taylor? Do you have a really good offensive line? Do you have Isaiah Davis as a solid RB2? You don't get the answers to these questions if Tyrod Taylor cannot complete passes, if Tyrod Taylor is afraid to throw it past the line of scrimmage. You look today outside of Breece Hall, who I remind you scored on a screen pass, which is behind the line of scrimmage, all the receivers had one catch and less than 5 yards. That tells me that Justin Fields, I don't know if it's the yips. I don't know if it's in his head. I don't know if it's the processing speed. I don't know if he's getting confused out there. I don't know what it is. But it is clear to me that he is struggling with the fundamentals of the quarterback position. And I understand that in a coach's eyes, when you look at what he can do physically on the football field, this is something that is very concerning. And look, this to me is a big win for the Jets, not only because this was a game that you wanted to win and prove yourself, but this is also an emotional game for this fan base. You look at this fan base and the way they honor Nick Mangold today, and I have to give the Jets a lot of credit. I thought how they handled Nick Mangold, how they were going about it, how they celebrated his life today was very special. And I also give this front office a lot special. One of the things I will really appreciate with Darren Muji, and sometimes the hardest thing for people, especially when you don't come from an organization, is realize the importance of people. And Darren Muji, when it came out this week that they had made the Sauce Gardner trade basically before Nick Mangold's funeral, which was on the day of the trade deadline. And he basically said, the trade's done, but you have to wait until after the funeral because it takes away from a great New York Jet, someone that had such an impact on this community, someone that has such a great impact on this fan base. I need you to hold off on that. I don't want it to be a distraction. And to me, that shows that Darren Muji gets it. And to an extent, Aaron Glenn get it. That with certain teams, when you come from the outside, you don't know necessarily the DNA of a fan base or of an organization. And you don't understand the importance of some pieces. But I think it's very clear how much this organization understood the importance of Nick Mangold. And it was great to see Nick Mangold honored today. Again, my favorite Jet growing up, it's off screen, but I have a signed Nick Mangold picture hanging right above my studio right here. So again, I know Nick's protecting me right now during this live stream. So again, I thought that it was very great how they honored him. But again, with some of the press conference, Breece Hall was asked what the roller coaster week was for him. Breece, for me, it's kind of like F it. It's what it is. I'm here to show up on Sundays, Mondays, Thursday. The other stuff is for all the gossip about and for everyone else that's on the outside to talk about. Let's see. Breece Hall was asked if the Jets are learning something about winning these past games. It's less about learning how to win. It's just getting over the losing. To me, this was this again was a nice win for this team. And, I look at Justin Fields. This to me, again, the defense was unbelievable today. I think that's a good sign. The things you look for today, the defense, Will McDonald, this team looked really great. The pass rush looked incredible for Keep It Simple RC. The pass rush looked really good. And it feels like this was also finally, they're playing the way they want to play. A lot of the guys that they had before, it seemed Sauce was more of a zone guy. They wanted to play a lot of zone. Today they're playing a lot more man. They're saying, F it. We're just going to blitz. We're going to get after it. And they did. Quincy looked good. Jermaine looked good. And Will, of course, had a great game. Look, for Will McDonald, who's had a slow year, he's had 7 sacks. The way the season's going, I know we were dogging Will McDonald, but he's probably going to end the year with double-digit sacks. He definitely is someone that's definitely making a lot of plays. Keep it simple. I'm in favor of that, especially if he's bad early. Let's get to more of your comments. Love people making Brees Hall driving go big deal. Yeah, people blow that out of proportions. Guys have fun in the locker room. I don't have a problem with that. You know what? And I'm of the same opinion. I want them to extend him. And I think that's a big reason why they have him here. You have the transition tag you can put on Brees Hall, which gives him about $12 to $13 million. There's a lot more ways to keep Brees Hall here. And especially, I think if you pay him, he will be happy. Yeah, I think that's a little overblown. Keep it simple. And look, I know a lot of people were giddy about some of the things that happened with Sauce in his game. Of course, Quinnen gets a bye. I mean, Quinnen basically gets a 2-week vacation. That's awfully nice for him. But, I do think that it looked like Quincy looked really good today, looked really comfortable. And especially today, too, when you look at normal scripts, the team was in normal scripts. They were able to get after the quarterback. So many times this team has been down by double digits or by 10 points that you can't get into that game script of just getting after the quarterback. And you saw it today when they're in a normal game script and there's 3rd and longs, they can get after the quarterback. And I see that a lot of people want to keep Quincy. There's a world where I think Quincy, if you were to ask me before the trade deadline, does Quincy come back? I would have said probably not. And again, I think a lot of it depends on Quincy. I think Quincy likes being a Jet, but if he wants to go somewhere else, especially if he wants to play with Quinnen, like if there's an option to play in Dallas, like that's on the table. But I would definitely look at it because here's the thing too. I look at the situation with Quincy. If you feel he's the better option in the short term than Jamie Sherwood, there's a chance too. Like one thing that Darren Muji and the staff have made abundantly clear, they're not going to, sink with the ship. Like the one thing I was very critical about Joe Douglas, if Joe Douglas made a mistake, they would double down with that mistake and not try to improve that mistake. Where Darren Muji at least seems proactive. The defensive tackles weren't addressed in the offseason. They address it during the season. They needed to get more physical at the slot position. They get Brownlee. They needed more weapons in the wide receiver room. They add to at the trade deadline. So I do think that if they look at Sherwood, again, Sherwood I thought was solid today. But if they feel that Sherwood isn't worth the money, and maybe there's a world where Robert Saleh or Jeff Ulbrich or heck, even, Joe Douglas look at him and say, if you eat some of the money, we'll take him. Like I think there would be enough of a market. Maybe build around Quincy a little bit. We'll have to see. I definitely am curious to see how they will address him in the offseason. But I would say I think there's a chance he's back next year. I do. It's hard to get sacks when you're playing against the run all the time. I believe Jermaine would have around 10 sacks and would have around 15 to 18. Look, I don't think he'd have 15 to 18. I think where Jermaine is a really good edge setter, really good run defender, plays every snap. He's probably an 8 to 10 on a really good year, maybe 12 sack guy. But, I mean, I do think, like, if in better situations, I think his sack numbers are going to be a little bit on the low end. If I had to guess, I do think Will gets to 10. Jermaine, I think, again, missed 3 games with the injury. I think if you get 7 from him, I think that's still a very good season, especially considering he misses 3 games as well. You never know. You never know, Stanley. Someone always might be there. Late here from Kev. Good to hear from you, Kev. Again, super chat to jump to the front of the line. Again, your thoughts on today's Jets win. Late here, win reminds me of special teams when cost us number 1 pick. We couldn't evaluate offense because of poor quarterback play. Here's the thing. Here's my thoughts on getting the number 1 pick. It's very clear that this regime is going to be here in 2026. We know this. The thing with the Jets is, if they really want the number 1 pick, like if they really want Fernando Mendoza, if that's the guy they look at, or Dante or whoever, they have multiple first-round picks that they can go up and get that quarterback and still have enough draft capital to build around. To me, the most important team to keep an eye on is Tennessee. Again, New Orleans won today. Tennessee's the only team with 1 win. I don't think they're winning more than 2 games. I think New Orleans will sneak out another one. If Tennessee, or heck, if you're a Jet fan, root for the Tennessee Titans. Because the Tennessee Titans up with the number 1 pick, they're not taking another quarterback. I think they like Cam Ward. What they will do is take a lot of draft capital for that number 1 pick. And the other thing, too, is maybe this team is kind of telling, and I know there was headlines about Mendoza, about Muji being at the Penn State game. And again, Mendoza had the great game that game. Draft a little bit, because again, it's the Jets. We have to talk about the draft. I could see a world where this regime's already kind of telling you what they think. They like the 2026 draft class, but I think they really love the 2027 draft class. That's why they have 3 first-round picks in that draft. I could see this scenario playing out, where the Jets, let's say, get 4 wins to end the season, maybe 5. I think 4 wins, 5 wins. Let's play that they get where they are right now, pick number 5. So they look at Fernando Mendoza, and look, they like Fernando Mendoza. They think he's a good quarterback, but they don't feel he's worth trading all this draft capital to get. I could see a scenario where they try to go out, and again, I know the Joe Burrow rumors. I think I'll believe that when I see it. Again, I would personally stick away from Kyler Murray. Do they look at another quarterback on the veteran market? But do they go into the next season with maybe a veteran or a stopgap? But do they take a flyer on day 3? And I think it's interesting because you can still draft a quarterback early day 3. I don't think people would view him as a franchise, but it gives you a guy that if he develops, if you really need to go to a rookie quarterback, it does add some intrigue. So here's one guy I would keep an eye on. So I think it will be very intriguing with one player in particular. And I think that if he's there, and I think there's a good chance he will be there, because I don't think a team's going to take a risk on him early on. But if the Jets want to get to the top of the 4th round and the health checks out, would it behoove the Jets to draft Drew Aller on day 3, where you have a guy that had, a lot of physical great tools, needs a lot of polish, but there is someone that, again, if you don't love the guys at the top of this draft, because again, GMs, you can pick all pros at every position, but if you pick the wrong quarterback, you're going to get fired. So I would look at this saying that you draft Aller on day 3. I think he's worth a flyer on round 3. It gives you a guy who has a lot of tools. It gives you a guy that hasn't really had that opportunity, but it also gives you a guy that I don't think the fan base is going to be screaming put in week 1. And there's a scenario where if Aller plays well, and even if Aller looks like a good backup quarterback, you found a decent prospect. So I think that is another option for this team to keep an eye on, especially as the season progresses. So I just would really look at him on day 3. I think that there's going to be some interesting guys in the upcoming draft. And again, Mendoza, we talk about Dante. We know that there's a lot of guys out there that basically are going to be intriguing prospects. Another day 3 guy who I also would keep an eye on, and maybe I'm being a little bit of a homer because I've seen this kid in person. Maybe I'm a little bit of a homer because, I watched the game yesterday. But one guy I would keep an eye on day 3 is Joe Fagano from UConn. This year, and again, I know people, he doesn't play great competition. He doesn't play great competition. He has an NFL head coach in Jim Mora, runs a very pro-style scheme, is 6'4", 225 pounds, not the biggest athlete, but incredibly efficient. 69% completion rate, averaging this season, actually 68% completion, has a quarterback rating of 162. But here's the big thing. 25 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. This is an incredibly efficient player. Even last year, Doesn't throw interceptions, 20 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. So on day 3, he reminds me a little bit of that high accuracy passer again. Maybe not going to really throw the ball down the field, but I think decent enough athlete, highly efficient quarterback. I mean, that's a guy I might look at day 3. Just a highly efficient one. So I love Stanley, man. So it's a possibility. The hard part, Matt, is I have to check his eligibility. And I've said this on this episode. I think this draft's going to be a really intriguing one because the NIL is really going to impact the NFL draft. Because if a kid in a quarterback doesn't feel they're going to be a guaranteed top 15 pick or probably even a top 10 pick, does it make sense for them to leave college early and lose out on millions of dollars? I mean, college quarterbacks are making millions of dollars. And I think the biggest cautionary tale is Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers, it was reported, if he went back to Texas, would have made $8 million. He got picked in the late day 3 by the Dolphins. He makes $800,000 this year, and that's not all guaranteed. So he went from $8 million to $800,000. They took a big fat zero off of what he could have made this year. I think that is something to definitely keep an eye on. And look, I think there's a chance that Dante from Oregon goes back to school. We know Arch Manning is going to stay in school. I mean, there could be a scenario where, like, I got to look at his eligibility. But the other thing, too, is, like, the kid from Alabama who looks incredible as well, like, I really love his game. But does he stay? Again, I have to check the eligibility. I believe he's a senior. I have to deal with Ty Simpson. Sorry. That's the thing, too, with eligibility. Eligibility is getting a little bit easier since the COVID years have come off the books. But college eligibility is so funny. Like, I always have to check that because if they have a way to stay in college, I would definitely look at that. And, I mean, yours is at least Zach Wilson. So, Stanley, man, I love that. Yeah, I actually, it's funny Kev said this. I didn't know if there was a bet today. And I was thinking, like, what is more likely today? I had this thought before the Jet game. And tell me if I'm wrong. I thought it was more likely that Breece Hall would throw a touchdown pass than Justin Fields. I really believed that. And look, the other thing that's scary too is Dylan Gabriel is a rookie that I think is way over his head right now. I don't think he's that good. And Justin Fields did not even look like he was in the same weight class with him. So that to me was a very disappointing thing to watch today. And again, Super Chat, jump to the front of the line if you want to make a donation to the channel. Again, we'll be back on Thursday night for the live stream, breaking down the Jets-Patriots game this upcoming Thursday. So look, it's one of those things too, is like, again, it was nice Quincy also did the sack dance for Quinn in today. Coming out of the bye, the most focus was 1-0, so I'm not really worried about what happened before the bye. Look, I think Quincy's got a good attitude. I would try to keep, again, they are not, they are definitely something to keep an eye on. I'm trying to keep an eye on something too. This is why I hate X. It's like they were saying a coach got fired. I don't believe it until I see it from other sources. But, I mean, look, like, this is the thing too. Like, at the end of the day, one of the things I also look at too is when I look at this Jet team, I think this coaching is gradually getting better. I think there's games, obviously, they could have won earlier this season. But, I mean, I look right now, like, this is a team that's winning without a quarterback. I know that's nothing new with Jet fans, but, I do think that it's something to keep an eye on. But I also think if Tyrod Taylor gives you the best evaluation, that's what you have to go. So this is a very good question, Kevin. I'm glad you asked this again because I love the fatties. I would think the Jets like Simpson. He seems to really like it in New York. I would make every effort to sign him, but you never know what his agent might tell him. If I'm the Jets, to try to lock him up now. AVT is a fascinating one. Kev, when you say extend AVT, I believe you mean a 1-year contract. I don't think the Jets are giving him a 2 or 3 year contract. AVT is in a very unique situation. And in a weird way, I think it benefits the Jets because AVT can go take another prove it deal somewhere else and look great and then finally get that massive contract. But the difference with the Jets is AVT knows that he's going to be bright guard here. He knows this coaching staff loves him. He knows the city. He knows the system. He knows what they're going to do. He knows this is a team that's going to want to run the football, which is the best attribute of his game. If he's going to try to max out a contract and be in a great situation, this might be the best place. And look, the Jets have so much cap space. I'd rather take a flyer on AVT, and if he's healthy 16 games, 17 games next year, and that's open to an extension, I look and see if I can do it. I just think he's such a talented offensive lineman. I mean, look, he was the best offensive lineman all summer. He looked the best out there. And yes, the Jets' offensive line has been good this year, but could you imagine how good they would be if he's here? And this is one that Stanley, I don't get why they haven't brought in Mike White for a workout. I think he would fit in this system. I really do. And I think he would be a very accurate passer. And I agree, too. I think that AVT and Simpson, you bring them back. You're not paying Olu yet. You're not paying Armand yet. A lot of it comes down to Josh Myers, too. I feel you can find another versatile interior lineman like him on the free agent market for cheap. And the other thing, too, is with AVT, I just think he makes your offensive line better. He really fits what you want. Yeah, but Kev, the difference is this regime didn't draft AVT. I even said this franchise, and it's going to be curious too, because I think one of the big things that we're not talking about, and I said this long before the season, was when this team signed Josh Myers. I really talked a lot on this channel about, I think that could be a sign that they view Tippmann better as a guard than a center. I mean, he was doing a lot of guard snaps this summer. Again, it worked out. He went to AVT. But if the Jets brass thinks that Tippmann is a better guard than a center, does that also influence the decision? You already have Tippmann that's younger and under financial control. If they have him penciled in at the guard spot, then does it make sense to get Simpson and let AVT walk potentially? That might be a scenario. I mean, there's a lot of different moving parts to look at. And I do think that is a very important thing to keep an eye on. And look, if AVT goes somewhere and balls out, you can't be upset. Again, the Jets have to look at the big picture. And let's be honest, AVT in his career for the Jets could have played in 85 games. 85 games total. How many has he played in? Want to take a guess? Anyone know the answer? I do. It's 35. 35 out of 85 games. And that, unfortunately, is not good enough. That is not good enough in terms of staying healthy. Like, part of the thing about being a football player and being a great football player is being available. And as much as we love AVT, as much as I appreciate AVT, and as much as I want him to succeed, if this organization makes the determination that they don't think he's going to be healthy again, two of the injuries have been weird. It's been tricep injuries, which, the Achilles one's probably the one that concerns me most. But the fact that, he had the double tricep is something that really intrigued me. But I think a good example is when I look at the Jets, one guy that kind of, and again, this is a bit troubling because Ben was here for 4 seasons. Mekhi Becton could have played in those, again, I'm not sure when the 17-game season started, so I'm just going to round to 16 just to be safe. But Mekhi Becton in 4 years with the Jets, 16, that's 32, 64. He could have played in 64 total games, let's just say, right? He played in 31. And even that is still a slightly better ratio than what AVT has played for the Jets. I know that's a crazy stat, but unfortunately that has been the case. So, and I think Myers has been solid too. Again, we have to see how they view this team, and do they view Myers as an everyday starter? It's something that you have to keep an eye on. So I definitely think we have to keep an eye on what this team does. And again, they have options. That's the big thing with all this cap space, all this draft capital. They have options, and they can do a lot with those options. And it's good to yes. And the other thing too is you want to talk about the Jets games today. They've won the last 2 games without Sauce. They've won these games without Garrett Wilson. I think that's also very telling that this team does have some talent on this roster. So Jets finished with 42 net passing yards, the fewest by any team to win since week 18 of the 2022 season, when the Panthers had 32 and a 10-7 win against the Saints, and the infamous Sam Darnold started that game. So again, Sam Darnold, very curious. Yeah, that definitely was a big one too. And look, it's the Jets too. Like, you look, Quincy, I thought played well today. I think that this is a big second straight win. Look, the defense played incredibly well. The special teams were incredible. But the one thing too is you got to look at Garrett Wilson for the season. Again, if that knee's not right, I don't want him out there until he's 100%. And the big thing too is you have to keep an eye on this quarterback, because I want to see this. I need to see what these receivers can give, and it's awfully hard to do that. I don't love Kyler Murray. If it's a stopgap for a year, I don't hate it. I think he's a better player, obviously, than Justin Fields. But I don't know. Aaron Glenn wants a quarterback that's going to never leave the building, that's a great student that loves the game of football. And we all know Kyler Murray is not that type of guy. I mean, they had to put like restriction in the contract about him playing video games. So I don't know if that's going to be necessarily a good fit. I just don't think personality-wise Kyler Murray really meshes with what I don't think it really meshes with what Aaron Glenn is looking for in a player. Like, to me, that's kind of the antithesis of what Aaron Glenn is looking for in a player. So if I'm the Jets, I personally don't go that route. I know Bart Scott has brought it up. I know certain other people have brought it up as well. But, I want to see this team like continue to build out. I want to see these guys continue to play well down the stretch. I want to see these guys continue to get better. And, look, this to me was a game where you want to check boxes off. This was a win after the bye, which the Jets never do. And to me, that's very important. Like, apparently that's also too. Kyler Murray's a much better player than Fields. Look, I don't disagree with you, Matt. I do think Kyler Murray is a better player. The issue I have, though, is I don't necessarily know if he fits what Aaron Glenn is really looking for. Again, more of your comments, super chat to jump to the front of the line. The other thing, too, and I talked a little bit about earlier, too, was I think this was a big game for Aaron Glenn because we talked about how they out of the bye, how this team has been poor. I think that's important. But to me, this upcoming Thursday night game is a huge one. And I think it's very important because, again, it's a primetime game. It's the last primetime game the Jets are going to be in this season. And there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on this team. And if you're the head coach, Aaron Glenn, and you see Justin Fields struggle again, like he did in this first half, and you don't make the decision, you're going to get ripped nationally for it. And my big thing, too, is you've already shown you can go back to Fields. You've already benched him with Tyrod before. The big thing for me is not even necessarily that Tyrod's an upgrade, but it's showing that you at least have a pulse on the game. It's not working with your quarterback, and you need to try something different. And if Tyrod Taylor isn't healthy enough to play, here's another news flash. He shouldn't be there. You should be dressing someone else right now. So Matt, I don't. Oops, sorry about that. Let me get to Matt really quickly. No, Gino's been terrible, so I don't think that's going to happen. Matt, I don't think that's going to happen. Harbaugh went to the Chargers for that specific reason. Harbaugh had his pick of every NFL franchise. He chose them because he wanted to work with that quarterback. That is the only reason he went to the Chargers. So I don't see that ever happening. I really don't. Yeah, I'm a little surprised too. Again, I don't know what the upgrade. I know the two injuries he did provide was AZ's in the concussion protocol, and that basically it was Garrett re-aggravated the knee that he'd hurt before. Like those are the only two injury really updates that we really had coming out from Aaron Glenn. So again, I still think the Jets need to continue to build this foundation. And again, I think the big thing too is continue to build up this foundation, continue to build something moving forward. And look, I saw a lot of promise from the defense today. The special teams was really good. But this offense, you're not going to win games in the NFL if your offense is that anemic. You're not going to win games if it's that bad. And look, at this point, I think it's clear that Justin Fields is not going to be this team's long-term answer. Maybe he's the backup next year. Maybe he starts the season next year. But I just think that when I look at this team, I just get this feeling that I get why the coaches rationalize Fields, because if Fields is playing his best football and Tyrod Taylor is playing his best football, Justin Fields is the better quarterback. The problem is Justin Fields' average is all over the place. Where at least with Tyrod, you know what you're getting. Where when you look at Justin Fields, it's like, am I going to get an elite athletic performance with some really nice plays, or am I going to get someone that can't throw past the line of scrimmage and is making it look like football back in the 1950s? Like that's something you have to keep an eye on, and it's incredibly frustrating to see how this team played. And again, I thought another interesting thing was Kiko being inactive today. I don't know if he's banged up or something, but I thought it was very interesting that Michael Walker, got to start the game at linebacker. Like I was a little surprised with Kiko. I wonder if Kiko might be banged up too, or maybe they just think he was great for the personnel today. So that could be. I see, guys. Yeah, I agree. I don't think he's not a great thrower of the football. We understand he's not great at reading. So no one asks direct questions about Taylor or Quincy because Glenn always talks about him, annoys me in the media. And at this point, too, I don't think they felt like they were going to get an answer from him. So I think that they were like, you know what, we could ask, but we're really not going to get likely an answer. So why do we even bother asking the question? I really think Mendoza reminds me a lot about Jared Goff, but it's funny you bring this up, Matt. And again, I don't know why I keep hitting the microphone. I'm sorry, especially the podcast listeners. I was a bit surprised, to be honest with you, because when they went into this offseason, I thought that was going to be the type of quarterback they looked for, was a guy who was a more accurate quarterback and someone that was more efficient. And instead, they went with Justin Fields, who's an incredibly hyper-athletic quarterback, but not really an efficient quarterback. Like, I look back at this offseason, and you had someone that reminded me a lot of Jared Goff with Mac Jones. Again, not a great athlete, not the biggest arm, but hyper-efficient. Look, I think Jared Goff's a better athlete and has got a better arm than Mac Jones. But I thought Mac Jones, at least I thought, could be a solid game manager for this team, at least for a season. And look, do I think he'd look the same because he's with Shanahan right now? They have so many weapons, and Shanahan's such a good offensive coach. Do I think we'd get the same Mac Jones? Probably not. So the thing too is just the variance. Like I know what I get with Taylor, but the other problem too is Taylor gets hurt. I mean, Taylor couldn't even make it through a half, basically. I mean, he played one half and he was out with a knee the next week. So I don't know if they're afraid he's going to get hurt, but at this point, you got to have a short leash, especially with Fields. And look, they were going to start Tyrod Taylor if Tyrod Taylor was healthy against the Bengals. I do think that there's a short leash here, and maybe they felt like with Fields today they were winning or at least in the game, so it didn't make sense to bring in Tyrod. But my big thing, though, is if Tyrod, if Tyrod gives you the best chance to win in New England or compete, like that's the big thing. when it comes to New England, I don't want this team to be embarrassed. I don't want this team to be a punchline. And like if Aaron Glenn wants to get rid of that same old Jets moniker, the Jets won't embarrass themselves in prime time. I've done this game before. Like seriously, think again. Let me know in the comments. Here's a good one. When is what primetime games have been memorable for the Jets the last 15 years? What have been primetime moments that you've been proud of, that were exciting, that made you feel great as a fan? Let me know in the comments. I'll give you a few seconds. But what were primetime games that stood out to you over the last 15 years during this drought, that you were proud of the New York Jets, that the Jets made you happy, that you could puff out your chest? To me, there's, I would say, 2.5 games. And I'll explain the half a game in a second. But let me know in the comments, is there a game or games in primetime that you as a Jet fan were excited about or that made you happy? I have 2.5 that come to mind. First one was the Sam Darnold game against Detroit, which was a lifetime ago. His first game, threw the bad pick to start the game, but came back throwing 2 touchdowns and the Jets win the game. The other half primetime was the first Aaron Rodgers game. Now, again, I say that's a half because the Xavier Gibson walk-off was incredible, but it was an incredibly sour win because even though the Jets won the battle, you knew the war was pretty much over because you pretty much knew Aaron Rodgers, if he wasn't done for the season, he was out for a long time and the season was cooked. And the other one was Aaron Rodgers week 3 against the Patriots, where you beat the Patriots. You had Aaron Rodgers playing like what we thought he would look like, moving around, making plays. Like you thought the Jets were going to take off. But let's do the opposite. If I was to say come up with 5 primetime games that you were embarrassed about or that infuriated you as a fan or that made you angry, I think you would be like, only name 5. Like you'd have to pick like the butt fumble game, the seeing ghosts game, Trevor Siemian breaking his leg in half game, the Zach Wilson booed out of the building Jacksonville Thursday night game. There's so many bad football games that you remember from primetime. Like you don't want them. And even this year early on, the Jets with Brown Allen somehow fumbled going into the end zone, which is something you never see. You look at the game in London where they had negative net passing yards. Like, don't be embarrassed. Like, go into Foxborough and make this a game because I think the Patriots could be vulnerable because they're looking at it as an easy win. The Patriots are in first place. The Patriots view this and their fans as this is basically a homecoming game. Go in there, get after Drake May, Will McDonald, get in his face. Jermaine Johnson, get in his face. Take away that run game. Don't let them dominate the run. Get this offense in a groove. And look, if Justin Fields, if the way they win this game is they run like some hybrid option offense where Fields doesn't throw that much, but they're running all around the place and they're giving Breece Hall, like the other thing to do is feed Breece Hall. He's one of your favorite players. So like even the Dan Marino game too. And again, I just said for 15 years, like I didn't need the whole Jets franchise. Like we don't have enough time in the episode to go through all those nightmare scenario of playoff of primetime games, which just, absolutely drive you nuts. And look, it's actually there's actually an interesting question I had. And again, this is like some, this is like one of those stats that I don't think really matters, but I am curious because now the Jets have basically been in the state of Ohio with Cincinnati and Cleveland back to back. I mean, this probably happens a lot, especially in the AFC North, but like when's the last time like a team went back-to-back weeks and beat both teams from the state of Ohio? I mean, again, it's kind of a useless fact, but I guess a little bit of an intriguing one. Again, I love those kind of things. Again, comments below, super chat them the front of the line. Again, we'll be breaking down the upcoming Patriot game later this week. We're going to get some more great Jets collaborators on the channel. And of course, we do so much draft content. There's going to be so much this season as well going forward. And look, this to me was a nice win. It's a nice building block. This is, again, a game you felt the Jets could win. And look, he did not play well. The team rallied together. They played complementary football. The special teams, the defense picked them up. This is how you start changing a locker room's mindset and the culture. And look, this was a week where I have to remind people they do this in the same week they trade 2 all-pro players and all-pro players that were in their mid-20s. It says everything you know about this locker room. And the record isn't great. I know. Aaron Glenn has his warts as a head coach. I know. This offense has its warts. I know. But the big thing you want to look at this regime is this. Do they have a plan, which I think the front office clearly does? And can Aaron Glenn, again, get people going in the right direction? Look, they've added a lot of pieces. And this is a good thing for Glenn because, again, a couple of weeks ago, we were all talking about being potentially one and done, how basically this coach, if he didn't pick it up, would be done. And look, they won games. They came from behind. Again, I know Cincy's not a good team, but they came from behind and won those games. They closed out this game today. I mean, these are things that, again, the Jets don't do well in their history. They're not a team that comes back in games and finishes it off. They're not a game that closes games like they did against Cincinnati and Cleveland. And I understand these are bad football teams, and the Jets are a bad football team. I get that. And I understand that there will probably be a blowout on this schedule. When you look at the Ravens, when you look at the Bills, when you look at the Patriots twice, you get Miami. But, like, I just look at this team. Like, if Aaron Glenn can win a game in the AFC East, if Aaron Glenn ends this season splitting with Miami, and again, I don't trust Buffalo because, again, I think Buffalo, that was a fluke today. I want them to win at least one AFC East game, but they somehow split with the Patriots or the Dolphins, and even if it's the Patriots at home, because don't forget the Patriots have to come this direction. I think that is a big thing for this fan base and a big feather in the cap for this coaching staff. And look, sometimes you have to make big changes, and that's one thing I applauded Muji with the trades. I felt with a lot of the last regimes, they tried to do these half steps where they try to rebuild, but then they also would spend a lot of money in free agency. Like, it just never felt like they were fully committed to, like, fully going all in or fully rebuilding. It's clear that this staff at least has a plan. And I'm not saying Sauce and Quinnen were a part of necessarily the, quote, problem in the locker room. But I do think it is important to bring in young and hungry players that don't understand the losing or the history of this franchise. And you keep key offensive players like Garrett Wilson. You keep key players like Breece Hall. And I'm not saying Sauce and Quinnen were bad guys, but it's clear Sauce was a guy who, again, is incredibly talented, but I don't know if he really had the personality that I think Aaron Glenn might have been looking for. And I also look at Quinnen. This is a guy that has been here for a long time. He was obviously bothered when they moved on from Aaron Rodgers, and I get it. He doesn't want to be part of another rebuild. And look, the Jets did right by him. And I also give Quinnen a lot of credit. He said a lot of great things on the way out, but also Quinnen could have easily complained. He could have gone public and made it so the Jets would get a lot less. And look, the Jets, I think, wanted to keep Quinnen, make it work. But when they got that offer, I think it was very clear that they're like, okay. And look, I understand that this – I can't celebrate till next – since we have to play Thursday. Look, Kev with a baseball question. I'll get to the – okay, I got to love this. Again, I'm going to do more Mets content on this channel. If you want more Mets content, let me know in the comments below. Do the Mets extend Pete Alonso? This is a tough one. I think they go a lot of different directions. I think it comes down to what Pete wants. And I also would have the conversation with Pete. Pete, you're not going to be a full-time first baseman. You're going to DH. And the other thing we have to keep in mind, too, I know it's a very long play. I feel like Juan Soto halfway through his contract is going to be either a full-time DH or DH first base. Okamoto, I think, again, it just feels like it's just a pipeline for the Dodgers. I just get the feeling the Dodgers are going to get him. But it also depends on what they want for first baseman. Again, Pete is a great bat. He's a great power guy, but Naylor might be what this team wants, a little bit better defender. again, what Pete brings you in terms of his powers and RBIs, maybe they feel Naylor makes up for his defense. Naylor makes up for his on-base percentage. Naylor makes up for his higher batting average. So, again, I do think that is a very good one as well. We need the Jets to win. Don't closely connect them with a team like the Mets. Hey, the Mets have won a lot of games. So, yeah, the Jets' schedule coming up. I mean, I think there's some winnable games. I want to try to split the Patriots. Again, I think it's going to be tough on the short week this week. You're at the Ravens, which I think will be a tough one. Home against the Falcons. I think that could potentially be a winnable game. Dolphins at home in December, I think it's a winnable game. Saints, a winnable game. Jaguars, I don't think are that great. That could be a winnable game. Again, I know I'm stretching a little bit. I mean, I think the Jets end with 4 or 5 wins. Again, end of the season, Patriots at Jets the 28th. And even the last Bills game, I mean, is there a scenario right now where the Bills resting players week 18? That's one of the things I don't like about the 17-game schedule. I feel like so many teams and so many schedules are basically decided that so many teams now are just like taking the week 18 off, which drives me nuts. I mean, right now, Patriots are 8-2, Bills are 6-3. I think the Bills are going to have to play that last week because they might be playing for the division. So I know they're going to be rooting for. I mean, one thing too is, can the Jets finish the season in third? I know the Dolphins won today, but can they get above the Dolphins just finishing third? I think that would be big. Ravens are 4-5, but again, they've been on a great streak. Colts 8-2, Jaguars 5-4, but Jaguars lost today. So, I mean, look, right now, Patriots are 8-2, Colts are 8-2, Broncos are 8-2. Right now, you have the Chargers and Chiefs 6-3 and 5-4, Jaguars 5-4. So, I mean, the Bills, weirdly enough, are in the thick of it right now. Like, we all thought they'd be pulling away, but I mean, look, the Patriots are a good football team. I think that they've also had a very light schedule. Let's not forget that, but. I just don't want to be embarrassed. Like, I don't want to come on here and say, wow, the Jets just got dog walked by the Patriots again. Like, I don't mind losing to the Patriots if it's a game where I'm like, you know what, the Jets, they threw everything at the wall. They did everything they could. They played a really good game. It sucks, but you know what? I can hold my head high after that and be like, you know what? They competed their A's off, and, you know, they were clearly outgunned, but they definitely came there. And look, we'll be here Thursday night again late. I know probably a lot of you. I actually think Thursday night will be a lot of fun. I think some of us will have some cocktails in us by the end of that night. So I think Thursday night is definitely going to be a crazy show as well. But again, I think you need to have a short hook as well. I will, Kev. I will. And again, we'll have a lot more streams. We don't just do the Jets. We've been doing a lot more New York Giants content on this channel. We'll also be doing a lot of New York Mets content throughout the offseason. But I mean, Matt, that's not a bad one. I mean, Brock Purdy, it could be the Mac Jones is a 2-year contract. I don't think they're going to move off of Purdy yet. But I mean, we've seen weird things happen in the NFL. But again, I think this was a good win for the Jets. I think this is good for this regime, and it's a good building block. And look, I want to get to the end of the season saying the Jets have a solid foundation. I think we're seeing signs that they do. I think we're seeing signs that the culture is the big thing. And it does feel like, even though it's minimal, it does feel like things are changing. Like, even with Quincy, you had a guy that was benched, a guy that could have easily just said, you know what, I don't have to play another game for you again. And he came out and he flew around the field today and was making plays. I do think, again, you heard Quinnen talk about how much he respects Aaron Glenn and how much he thinks he's going to be a big part of it. He just was sick of the losing. And I get, he's been here a long time. He's been through multiple regimes. I get it. But you need to take steps. You need to check certain things off the checklist. And I thought this was a big one. Winning after the bye, after a win. And look, you won a game where your quarterback, which again was terrible, you won through special teams, you won through defense. And look, I think the defense is starting to look like the defense that we were expecting from this team. And look, I know a lot of us will be watching the Colts hoping they lose games for draft picks. I know a lot of people will be watching the Cowboys hoping they lose. I know a lot of people are hoping Quinnen and Sauce fail. Look, they have new opportunities for them. I hope they do well in those new opportunities, but they're no longer on the Jets. I look at the Jets. I look at who's on this team, who's making an impact, and who can help turn this around. And more importantly, we'll look at the draft. There's a lot of big things out there. And look, I think there's going to be a lot of turnover this offseason. The Jets have made a lot of turnover early. But overall, it's the other thing too, and I keep saying this, like, I think that with Tanner Engstrom and with Aaron Glenn, the hardest thing for me right now is it is very difficult to judge this offense because I think Justin Fields is just that bad. That's why I think Tyrod Taylor definitely needs to play they need to have him on short leash. At the very least, show this fan base, show the country on national television that you preach the accountability, that if you feel they're not getting the job done, they're not doing a good enough job, guess what? They're getting the short leash. They're getting out of there. So I think the Patriot game will be another good litmus test for this team, seeing where they are. And again, they're going against they're going against the first place team in the AFC East. But again, guys, thank you for joining us. Again, check us out wherever podcasts are available. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss our latest live stream. Again, we're breaking all the latest Jet news down. We'll have tons of draft content this offseason. Again, we do full mock drafts. So if you love NFL draft content, make sure to like and subscribe. Check us out wherever podcasts are available. And again, Thursday night, we're going to have a lot of fun. I know a lot of you might have a little bit of the creature that night, especially watching the Patriots. So I know it'll be a late show, but I always think some of those late night primetime shows are some of the best. So I look forward to seeing you there. And again, if you have Jet fans that want to join a great community, want to ask questions, or just be a part of a great, fun Jet community, let them know. Like and share, subscribe, get us in that YouTube algorithm so we can get out to more great Jets fans. Because again, I love talking to New York Jets. I know we have a great fan base, and I want to get this out to as many great fans as possible. But again, you guys helped make an incredible show. Great questions as always. Love the enthusiasm today. You guys brought it. I really loved and appreciate it. But I'm looking forward to talking to you Thursday night after the Jets-Patriots game. We'll try to slip in a preview at some point this week. But again, the New York Jets have won 2 consecutive games. They've won 2 in a row. And now they look to extend the streak to 3 up in Foxborough on Thursday night, where we will come afterwards to bring you the latest live stream. Again, only on Rich Sports Talk. Thank you so much for joining us here today. We will see you next.